Hi everyone! For today's video, I am a guest designer for the Scrappin' for Less May 2019 card kit, and I will quickly go through the contents of the kit. So each kit comes with 6 different colors of cardstock, and this month it's bubblegum pink, wisteria, sweet corn, powder blue. These are all by Gina K Designs. And then sour apple and wild cherry are by Pop Tone. And then in the kit you also get 2 sheets of Nina 110-pound cardstock. Here is the collection 1. You get some ephemera by Scrappin' for Less. You get 2 craft tags by Doris, the sequence, and then the pattern papers are by Scrappin' for Less. These are called water patterns. The second collection, you get Prancing Pegasus stamp. You also get the Pretty Little Rainbow pattern papers by Scrappin' for Less. You get a ribbon and then of course your sequence. Here is the third collection. You get some flowers by Doris, some twine, the sequin mix, and then the pattern papers, and I love these. These were my favorite from the entire collection. And then the last one, you get a gnome stamp, this moss by Doris, the sequin mix. I got a couple of keys, and then the pattern papers. And then as a banana split subscriber, I also get an extra goodie bag, and in this month's bag there is a sentiment stamp by Scrappin' for Less, an embossing folder of an adorable fairy, the gnome dies, and then the glitter by Doris. For this first card, I'm keeping it very simple. I just want the focus to be on the pattern paper and the stamp. So I used one of the waves pattern papers, and I just die cut that panel with a stitched rectangle die. And then I had this frame from a previous project, and it's just Nina 110-pound cardstock that I die cut with using 2 rectangle dies. And so I'm adding that, and then this is a inside scalloped rectangle die that I cut the cardstock from the kit with, and I'm using it as a frame to frame up my little pattern paper. The sentiment for this card I stamped with the sentiment stamp from the Banana Split collection, and I just stamped it onto some black cardstock, and I white heat embossed it. I just adhered the sentiment strip to the top frame, and then I'm going to use some 3M foam tape to pop up the entire thing. So I'm just cutting my tape down the center because it's a little too wide, and try to get that on as straight as possible. And then I will line the entire frame as well as the sentiment, because I want to pop up the entire piece. And then I'm just going to cheat a little bit by adding some liquid adhesive to that foam tape, because I want to make sure I get it centered, and that liquid adhesive will give me just a minute or a second or two of time to line it up straight. And then I have my image all colored, and I'm going to pop him up on some foam tape as well. And then I just center him right above that sentiment, and that will complete the first card. Okay, so for the second card, I started by die cutting all of the layers. So I've got the largest panel that I die cut using a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, and then I'm going to adhere that to my card base. Next, I use several of the fishtail banner dies from, this is an MFT die set, and I kind of picked out pastel colors, if you will, for the background. And then I decided I'm gonna mat all of those banners because I just wanted to have them differentiate between each other. So I'm using some black cardstock just for my stash, and I'm adhering the banners down. And then I will use my paper trimmer to trim those up. So the direction of this card started out just a little bit different than it finished. In the beginning of creating this card, I had it was like rainbow star pattern paper, and that was going to be my oval element from the sketch. But there was just too many patterns for me. And so to balance that out, I'm creating a background for my Pegasus to sit on, and I'm using some Bristol Smooth cardstock. And then this is a stencil by MFT. I believe this one is called Mini Clouds. And I'm just creating some clouds, some pink clouds, using worn lipstick Distress Oxide. And then once I cover the entire panel, I will use a stitched oval die by My Favorite Things to cut that panel out. And I'm just looking for, I guess, the most appealing section of that panel. And then to kind of mimic everything else, I did use some black cardstock to mat the oval as well. So once I had changed my mind with the different oval element, the Pegasus that I had colored initially, it sort of didn't match, and so off screen I did color another one, and you'll see a different image of the Pegasus, or a different coloring of the Pegasus in the end pictures. For the sentiment, I stick with my standard, and I white heat emboss the sentiment onto black cardstock, and then I use a Lawn Fawn die to die cut the sentiment out, and I can just directly adhere it to my card. I do go ahead and pop up my focal point image, and then I can trim off all of those extras that are overhanging, and that will complete the second card. For card 3, I'm using collection 3, and I'm following sketch number 2. I've got all of the papers cut and matted onto the, I believe this is sour apple cardstock from the kit. And I'm just layering the pattern paper on top of the cardstock, and I'm just sort of arranging everything according to the sketch. There is one element in the sketch that I did omit from my card because I just felt like there was too many things going on, and this was plenty. Once I have all those elements adhered, I can work on the sentiment, and this time I did almost the same thing. I did use the matching cardstock, the sour apple, and I did stamp it with Versa Fine Onyx Black ink, and then I set it with clear embossing powder. I then used a die to die cut that banner out, and I adhered it directly across the center of the card. And then my two little fairies that I colored off screen, I'm popping those up on some fun foam and adhering them at the top corner and the bottom corner of that central panel. So jumping right into card 4, I have all my elements die cut and ready to go. I picked, I think, the most busiest pattern paper, and I love that pattern paper. It's so unique, but it is quite busy, and anything I put on top of it would just sort of get lost in it. So to fix that, I'm using an antique frame die by Penny Black, and I've die cut a piece of vellum to go directly on top of that panel. So once I had the scallop edge adhered to the back of that panel, I'm taking a peel off sticker from my stash to separate those two panels. And then my little piece of vellum, I'm pulling out the Xyron sticker maker. And this is the best way I have found that I can adhere vellum to on top of a panel, because once you have the entire background coated with that adhesive, there's nowhere it shows. I then created a sentiment using the sentiment stamp that was in the Banana Split collection, and then I've white heat embossed it onto some of that green cardstock. And then I've got my focal point image that I've colored and die cut, and I just popped it up on some foam tape to complete that card. So here is a closer look of all of the cards that I made using this month's kit. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you found some inspiration. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.